In the spring of 1953, a housewife named Margaret Hollis fed a family of 6 in Dayton, Ohio on $12 a week. Her husband handed her $25 every Friday and never asked for a receipt. He assumed groceries cost what groceries cost. He was wrong. Margaret fed the children 3 meals a day, packed 2 lunch pails, set a roast on the table every Sunday, and quietly folded the difference into a coffee tin behind the flour. By 1958, that tin held over $900. Her husband never knew it existed. She was not stealing, she was managing, and she was not alone. Across America in the 1950s, millions of women ran a second economy their husbands never saw. The man earned the check, and the woman stretched it. She knew the real price of a pound of beef, the day the bakery marked down, the cut the butcher gave away for a smile. She cut the food bill in half and said nothing about it, because a woman who could feed a family on half the money was not supposed to admit it. That knowledge was passed kitchen to kitchen, mother to daughter, in a low voice. Then the supermarket got bright and easy, and we forgot every word of it. These were not coupons, they were a discipline. A way of looking at money that treated every dollar as something to be defended. Number 22 furnished an entire front room with a $40 table, paid for with nothing but groceries the family had already bought. Number 14 cost absolutely nothing and put meat on the table for free. And number 3, the rule that cut more grocery bills in half than any other, was something a woman did before she even left the house. These 30 tricks were not about deceit. They were about control, the quiet, unbreakable control of a woman who decided her family would never go without, no matter what the paycheck said. Hit that subscribe button. Let us count down the 30 secret grocery tricks that 1950s housewives hid from their husbands, tricks that cut the food bill in half. Number 30, the grocery envelope. The budget that started with a small, deliberate lie. When her husband asked what groceries cost, she told him a number slightly higher than the truth. $25 came in, 12 went to food. The rest went into the envelope. He never questioned it because the table was always full and the man who eats well does not audit the kitchen. For a woman in 1953, that envelope was not greed. It was the only money in the world that was hers. The envelope told the truth. The wife told the husband what he needed to hear. Number 29, the bacon grease tin. The free cooking fat that replaced everything in a bottle. Every strip of bacon left grease. It was poured into a tin by the stove and used again. Eggs fried in it. Potatoes browned in it. Cornbread carried its flavor. A family that saved its grease bought no lard, no oil, nothing. That was 60 cents a month kept out of the store. Her mother had done it through the Depression. Her hands did it without thinking. Nothing that came out of the pan was ever thrown away. Nothing. Number 28, stretching the ground beef. The pound of meat that fed twice as many. A pound of hamburger cost about 50 cents. Mixed with a cup of oats, a slice of soaked bread, and an onion, it became 2 pounds on the plate. The meatloaf was bigger. The patties went further. The husband ate the same dinner and never tasted the difference. He thought he was eating a pound of beef. He was eating half of one. She did not stretch the meat to be cheap. She stretched it to be ready. Number 27, the butcher's soup bones. The richest meal in the kitchen, built from what the butcher swept aside. Soup bones and marrow bones were free, or near it. A good butcher set them aside for the women he liked. Simmered all day, they gave a broth that carried a pot of vegetables through a whole meal. 2 cents of barley turned a free bone into Sunday. The women who got the best bones were the women who were kind to the butcher every single week. What he handed over for nothing, she turned into dinner. The bread that cost a nickel because it was one day late. The bakery sold yesterday's loaves at the back door for half price. A woman who arrived at the right hour carried home 4 loaves for the price of 1. Toasted, it tasted the same. Made into French toast, it tasted better. She told her husband she baked it herself. Sometimes she did. Sometimes the back door did. One day, old was not stale. One day, old was a bargain that had not learned its own name. Number 25, the powdered milk cut. The gallon that quietly became 2. Powdered milk cost a fraction of fresh. Mixed half and half with whole milk in the same bottle, chilled overnight, it fooled everyone at the table. The children drank it. The husband poured it on his cereal. A family of 6 saved nearly $1 a week. Taste lives mostly in the eyes. He never tasted the powder. He only saw milk. Number 24, the liver and the organ meats. The cheapest protein in America, dressed up to look expensive. Liver, heart, and kidney cost 1/3 of what muscle meat cost. Soaked in milk, dredged in flour, fried with onions, liver became a dinner men bragged about. The butcher nearly gave it away. The plate looked rich. A woman who could make liver taste like a treat had cracked the cheapest code in the store. It cost pennies. It ate like a steak. That was the whole art of it. Number 23, the price book in her head. The memory that beat every sale sign in town. She knew a can of peaches ran 25 cents at one store and 19 cents at another. She knew last month's price and this month's. When a sign screamed sale, she already knew whether it was a deal or a trick. Most sales were tricks. She bought only the real ones. No notebook, no list a husband might find and question. It all lived behind her eyes. The store counted on you forgetting. She never forgot a price in her life. Number 22, the trading stamp hoard. The little books that turned grocery shopping into free merchandise. Every dime spent at the store earned a stamp. Most women licked them into books and cashed each filled book for about $3 in goods. The careful ones hoarded them for years, building toward something real while their husbands assumed the stamps were spent. Whole rooms were furnished this way. A $40 table bought with nothing but food already paid for. She saved them the way other people saved money, because to her, that is exactly what they were. He thought she was buying groceries. She was buying the lamp in the front room. Number 21, the loss leader run. The art of buying only what the store sold at a loss. Stores cut one item below cost to pull you in, hoping you bought everything else there too. She bought the loss leader and walked out. Eggs at one store, butter at another, flour at a third. She let 4 supermarkets compete to lose money on her. It took 3 stops in an afternoon. It cut 1/3 off the bill. The store built a trap. She took the bait and left the trap empty. Here is what the histories leave out. The 1950s woman had almost no money of her own. The check came in her husband's name. The bank account, if there was one, was his. The car was his. The house deed carried his name first. In most of America, she could not have taken out a loan without his signature. But the grocery money passed through her hands every week. And in that narrow channel, she built something close to freedom. She did not call it that. She called it being a good wife. She would have been embarrassed to call it anything else. But the coffee tin behind the flour was independence in its purest American form. the quiet certainty that if everything fell apart, she had a few $100s and a head full of knowledge, and her children would eat no matter what. We replaced all of it with a debit card and a husband who finally saw the receipts. We called that equality. We were not entirely wrong, but we lost the tin. Number 20, the cheaper cut. Same recipe. The Sunday roast that switched grades when no one was watching. Chuck ran 40 cents a pound. Sirloin ran 90. Cooked low and slow in a covered pot for 3 hours, Chuck fell apart. Tender and tasted richer than the expensive cut ever did. The husband carved it proudly and called it the best roast in Ohio. It was the cheapest roast in Ohio. He simply never asked. The expensive cut was for people in a hurry. She was never in a hurry. Number 19, putting up the summer. The garden, eaten in January, bought for nothing in July. In August, a bushel of tomatoes cost $1 at the farm stand. She canned dozens of jars in a hot kitchen all week. In winter, while neighbors paid 18 cents a can, her shelves were full and already paid for. A week of sweating over a canner in summer was 4 months of free vegetables in the cold. The cellar shelf was a savings account that fed you back. Number 18, the chicken that lasted a week. 1 bird, 3 dinners, and a pot of soup. Sunday was roast chicken. Monday was the meat picked off the bones, stretched into a casserole. Tuesday, the carcass became broth, and the broth became soup. 1 chicken at 60 cents fed 6 people for 3 days running. A woman who threw out a chicken carcass had thrown out 2 more meals and did not know it. The bird was not finished until the bones were boiled white. Number 17, the stretched pitcher. The juice and the milk that quietly grew. A 17-cent can of frozen orange juice took 3 cans of water. She added a 4th with a spoon of sugar, and the children never complained. The same logic ran through the kitchen. Soups got an extra cup of water and a little more salt. Everything went a little further. Done once, it was nothing. Done every day for a decade, it was a fortune. A 1/4 inch off the top of every glass was invisible. It was also money. Number 16, the twice-used coffee. The morning pot that gave a second cup for free. Coffee ran 85 cents a pound. The grounds, dried on the windowsill and mixed half and half with fresh, made a second pot nobody could tell from the first. For a husband who drank 4 cups before work, that habit shaved a 1/4 off every pound. She poured it strong and served it hot, and the strength and the heat hid everything. He praised the coffee. He was praising yesterday's grounds. Number 15, the backyard hens. The eggs that came with no price and no questions. A few hens in the yard laid more eggs than a family could eat. The extras went to neighbors at 60 cents a dozen, the original EGG money, the oldest secret income a woman had. It never touched the household budget. It was hers, clean and untraceable. Generations of women bought Christmas with egg money and never told the men where it came from. The hens did not know they were a bank. The wife did. Number 14, the neighbor trade. The grocery bill paid without money. Her hens laid eggs. The woman next door had a cow. The garden 3 houses down grew more beans than they could use. The wives traded among themselves, a dozen eggs for a gallon of milk, and saved $1 a week in groceries that never touched a bill. The men called it being neighborly. The women knew it was a supply chain. Free was the most powerful word on the block, and the women spoke it fluently. Number 13, the co-op buy. The bulk purchase split 6 ways. A 50-pound sack of flour cost $3. 6 wives went in together and split it, so each paid 50 cents for 8 pounds, which the small bags would have charged near $1 for. Sugar, rice, and beans moved the same way. The store priced for one family at a time. The women refused to shop one family at a time. Bought alone, it was retail. Bought together, it was wholesale. Number 12. The meatless day in disguise. The dinner with no meat that nobody noticed was missing it. Twice a week she served beans and cornbread, or a thick potato soup, or macaroni baked with cheese. Filling, hot, satisfying. A pot of beans cost a dime, while a pound of beef cost 50 cents. The husband, full and content, never realized he had not eaten meat. The secret was making the cheap meal the most comforting one on the table. A man who leaves the table full does not count the meat. She counted it for him. Number 11. The vinegar and the baking soda. The cleaning bill folded back into the food budget. Vinegar cleaned windows. Baking soda scoured pots. Together they did the work of a shelf of expensive products. The pennies saved on cleaning supplies went straight back into the grocery money, where her husband only ever saw one combined number. He thought the house ran on store-bought miracles. It ran on 2 cheap staples and her hands. The cheapest things under the sink did the most. They always had. In 2018, a team studying mid-century household economics went back through old family budget records, the little notebooks women kept and tucked away. They expected to find that families simply spent less in the 1950s. What they found was stranger. Household after household showed grocery money flowing in at one figure and food costing far less. The gap was consistent, deliberate, and almost always invisible to the husband. Women were running a documented hidden surplus year after year and converting it into savings, furniture, and security their families never traced back to the kitchen. The researchers had a name for what they were looking at. They called it shadow household income. It was, by their estimate, one of the largest unrecorded sources of savings in post-war America. Billions of dollars, managed entirely by women, recorded nowhere, taught only in whispers. It worked not because the women were old-fashioned. It worked because they were right. Number 10. The closing time shop. The hour when fresh food went cheap. Late on Saturday, before the weekend closed the store, the butcher and the produce man marked down everything that would not survive till Monday. A roast that ran $1 at noon went for 50 cents at closing. Bruised fruit, nearly free. A woman who shopped at the right hour bought Sunday dinner for Tuesday's price. She timed her week around that hour the way other people timed a train. The food was the same food, only the clock had changed, and the clock was on her side. Number 9. The stale bread second life. The loaf too hard to slice, too valuable to toss. A 15-cent loaf gone hard became bread pudding, French toast, or crumbs for the meatloaf. Nothing about a loaf was ever waste. The end of one meal was the beginning of another. A woman who threw out hard bread had thrown out tomorrow's dessert and next week's meat stretcher in one motion. The bread was never finished. It only changed jobs. Number 8. The pot that never emptied. The soup that ate the whole week's leftovers. A spoonful of beans, the last carrot, a chicken bone. The gravy nobody finished. It all went into one pot on the back of the stove. By Saturday, it was a soup that fed 6, $1's worth of supper built entirely from food already bought. A family that ate Saturday soup paid for 6 dinners and got 7. Nothing left the kitchen until it had been eaten at least twice. Number 7. The whole bird cut at home. The chicken bought whole because parts cost more. A whole chicken ran 50 cents a pound. Cut into pieces, it ran near 80 cents a pound. She broke it down herself at the kitchen table: breasts, thighs, wings, and the back for the stock pot. The butcher charged a premium to do what a sharp knife did for free. 5 minutes of cutting saved nearly a third on the same bird. The store sold convenience. She had no use for convenience. She had a knife. Number 6, the stockpile. The pantry built when the price was low. When canned corn dropped to a dime from its usual 15 cents, she did not buy one. She bought 12. The shelf in the basement filled with staples bought at the bottom of the price. When the store raised the price, her pantry did not care. She bought on her schedule, not the store's. That was the whole secret of it. A full pantry was a wall the grocery store could not raise the price through. Number 5, the bulk staples. The flour and sugar bought by the sack. Flour, sugar, rice, beans, oats, the things a kitchen ran on, were bought in the largest size, never the small. A 50-pound sack of flour cost $3. The 5-pound bag cost 50 cents, a third more per cup. A woman who baked her own bread and bought flour by the sack cut the bread line off her bill entirely. The small box was for people who had not done the math. She had done the math. Bought big, the cheapest foods got cheaper still. Number 4, the kitchen garden. The victory garden that never surrendered. The gardens of the war years did not all disappear when the war ended. The careful woman kept hers. Tomatoes, beans, greens, herbs, a summer of vegetables for the price of seed. What the garden gave, the store did not get to sell her. A patch of dirt the size of a parlor fed a family all summer for $1. The land asked for seed and sweat. It paid back in groceries she never bought. Number 3, the list she never broke. The single sheet of paper that cut the bill before she left home. She wrote the list at the kitchen table against the meals she had already planned, and she bought what was on it and nothing else. No wandering the aisles, no reaching for what looked good. The store was built to make you buy more, and the list was built to stop you. A woman who shopped without a list let $2 of impulse creep onto a $12 trip and carried home things that rotted. The list was written at home, in calm. The store was designed for weakness. She never shopped weak. Number 2, the coffee tin behind the flour. The secret savings no husband ever found. Every dollar she shaved off the grocery bill went into a tin pushed to the back of the highest shelf, behind the flour where no man ever reached. A quarter here, $1 there, week after week, year after year. It was never much at once. It was everything over time. Margaret Hollis filled hers with over $900 in 5 years. When her husband lost his job in 1959, she set it on the kitchen table without a word. They never missed a mortgage payment. That tin was not a secret kept against him. It was a wall built around the whole family by the only person standing watch. Number 1, she spent less than he gave her. The simplest trick on this list. The only one that mattered. There was no system underneath it. No envelope, no stamp, no bone, no garden. Just the brutal, unglamorous discipline of taking the money she was given and spending less of it than came in. Every single week, for years, for decades. The amount did not matter. $1 saved was the same victory as 10. What mattered was the order of things, that something was set aside first before the wanting started, and that it was never, ever touched. Every other trick on this list was only a way of making this one possible. They all served the same plain master. Spend less than you are given. Keep the difference. Tell no one. That was the whole secret. It still is. None of these tricks required an education. None of them required a job, a bank, or permission. They required attention and the willingness to look at money honestly in a world that gave a woman almost no money to look at. The 1950s housewife understood something her granddaughters were taught to forget, that the person who controls the small money controls more than anyone gives her credit for. She was not hiding money from her husband because she did not love him. She was hiding it because love, to her, meant making sure the family survived whatever came next. And she was the only one keeping watch over the part of the budget that fed them every single day. The tin behind the flour was not betrayal. It was a promise she made and kept in silence. We know more than she did. We have accounts in our own names, and credit, and careers. We gained almost everything she lacked, but somewhere in the trade, we let go of the knowledge in her hands, the price book in the head, the bone from the butcher, the dollar folded away before the wanting started. We decided that kind of carefulness belonged to people who had no choice. She had no choice either. She just refused to let it show. And the families she fed on half the money never once knew how close to the edge they would have been without her, because the whole point of what she did was that you were never supposed to see it. This list is for her, for all of them. The women who cut the bill in half, kept the difference, and never said a word.